Hello, just another INFJ ramble. So, I was thinking about this topic and I kind of wanted to make a recording on it. And it has to do with INFJs being highly sensitive or empathic. And I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure, but I'm just speaking from personal experience, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us had traumatic childhoods and um, I think that is what enabled us to open aspects of ourselves that is highly sensitive and highly empathic. For most of my life, I've absorbed other people's energy like a sponge. And I didn't realize what was happening until most recently. And once I figured out what I was able to do, I started like observing it and kind of being, I guess, learning how to differentiate someone else's energy from my own. And then also, I'm getting to a point where I'm not letting other people's energy affect me as much. Like, I still feel it, I still observe it, but I'm non reactive. And I think we have this ability. Well, let's talk about two things. I feel like we have, I wanted to talk about how we acquired this gift and why we acquired it and what do we do with it. Okay, so going back to childhood, I think a lot of us had a lot of traumatic experiences, and in order to adapt to a highly volatile and unpredictable environment, we had to open up different faculties in our brain or our sensory system, and so for self-preservation purposes. You know what I mean? It's almost like we had to, like most people navigate through their five senses. I think we opened up our sixth sense in order to preserve ourselves. You know what I mean? It was like a self-preservation mechanism. And so, because we felt like we were in a, you know, unpredictable and unsafe environment, so we needed to kind of like hone in on other ways to adapt and protect ourselves. And so because of that, we became highly sensitive and highly aware of the energy around us, whether that energy was coming from our environment or the people in our environment. And then we could kind of like hone in on what was going on and then adjust ourselves to fit in a way that would either harmonize, balance, or kind of make us seem invisible, if that even makes sense. So yeah, we opened up our sixth sense or intuition at a fairly young age due to traumatic situations and pressure and stress. I don't know if I made my point. But anyhow, as we moved on into puberty and adulthood, we still were highly in touch with these aspects of ourselves. And I feel like these are parts that most of the population hasn't even tuned into yet because it didn't have to. You know what I mean? I think of the most of the other people in our population grew up with a fairly sheltered childhood. You know, didn't encounter as much of emotional, physical, mental abuse as maybe we did. You know what I mean? Um, But anyways, I think we carried it in to puberty and our adulthood, and nobody really told us what we were doing, and there wasn't too many resources to, you know what I mean, that we could like find and like read in order to understand, right? So we're kind of like floating through life, absorbing everyone's stuff, adjusting ourselves, hiding out, harmonizing, balancing things, you know, to the detriment of our own well being. And because we were so accustomed to doing it when we were children, it became second nature to us, right? We never really knew how to turn it on or off. It was always on. As I get older, I started noticing that, you know, I was attracting unhealthy people. They were draining me. Um, I was also taking on other people's um, emotional issues. And I figured I was taking them on, one, to understand them, two, to process it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people are still in the process of healing, and we actually assist in the healing process by, well, two ways. One, I think we take on their emotional energy and we transmute it or process it and refine it. You know what I mean? Or two, we don't take on their emotional energy and we just kind of give them a space where they can feel safe and accepted, and they can actually, you know, bring all their traumas to the surface and release them. You know what I mean? Because we're really good listeners, and we can like accept people without judgment and listen to them to a point where they feel like they can open up, you know, all these walls that they've built up around themselves, and they can like kind of like bring wounds and traumas to the surface to be released and to be healed or to be integrated. So yeah, that's why we are seeking, I feel, a remedy for suffering, because I feel like we've encountered so much emotional, mental, physical trauma our whole lives. And for me personally, I've been looking for a remedy for suffering for years, and this probably stems back to childhood times. Because we know pain, and then we don't want to inflict it on others. And I think like you do have to go through a certain measure of pain in order to produce some kind of pressure to relieve yourself of the things that you are not. You know what I mean? In order to become who you really are. It's almost like giving birth to a new version of yourself over and over again, but you have to encounter that pain and pressure in order to like push through and forward and to grow into something else. You know what I mean? Anyhow, I know this was a strange ramble, but it was on my mind nonetheless, and I wanted to talk about it. If you learned something, that's great. If you didn't learn anything, that's great too. Tomato, tomato. Hope you are having a beautiful day or night, wherever you are in the world. Blessings to one and all. Amen.